We shift focus now to the UK, where former Chancellor and Conservative Leadership contender Rishi Sunak has slammed Prime Minister Boris Johnson's COVID management policies. Sunak says Johnson let the lockdown go on for too long, and also that it was a mistake to have empowered scientists during the coronavirus pandemic. Sunak made the comments in an interview with The Spectator magazine. He says the government was wrong to scare people about Covid-19, adding he was banned from discussing the trade-offs of imposing coronavirus-related restrictions, such as the impact on missed doctor's appointments and lengthening health waiting lists in the state-run National Health Service. Sunak claimed it was a mistake to allow around 50 scientists on the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies. The group helped the government respond to the outbreak. They influenced crucial decisions during the time, like closing schools. In this interview, Sunak says back in 2020 he suggested that schools could have stayed open during the pandemic, and adds he even voiced his opinion in a meeting. A government spokesperson, meanwhile, has defended its record on COVID, saying the economy and children's education were central to the difficult decisions made during that time. Britain, under Johnson, was slower than most of its European peers to lock down in early 2020. After suffering some of the highest death rates at the start of the pandemic, it later became one of the first major economies to reopen. Well, WION's London correspondent Alex Iszatt joins us now for more. Alex, there's some pretty scathing remarks there from Rishi Sunak. What is he implying?
Well, he's suggesting that the government allowed shutdowns, lockdowns, and to give scare tactics to keep people compliant through all of the COVID pandemic. He said that it's these independent advisors that had too much power and were allowed to roam free and make sure that we were constantly sat at home. He has, however, edited his own thoughts and behaviours, because back when COVID was hit, he was saying that people should stay home and look after the NHS, and he's one of the people that was pushing for lockdown. But now, from the magazine article in The Spectator, he has been talking about all the things that he was trying to do, but he was banned from doing. He did include the £850 million that he put aside for the Eat Out to Help Out scheme that happened in the summer. But however, a lot of people blamed that scheme for the winter lockdown that came next. But he did counteract that and say that when that winter lockdown happened, it was because of him that it was shorter than usual, because he came back from his holiday, although government officials have said that that's not quite accurate. At the moment, it does seem to be a bit of back and forth between the government and Rishi Sunak from his statements in the magazine. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say later. But at the moment, it's the scientists that have been trying to say, well, actually, we may have given advice, but don't forget, it's up to the ministers to dictate exactly what happens, and that was to try and save lives.
Of course, we heard from a government spokesperson. They've issued a statement defending their action. But what about the scientists themselves? Have anyone else been coming out in support of them?
Well, the government was between a rock and a hard place back when the pandemic happened. It was quite difficult for anyone to know. This is unprecedented. We kept being told that we would have to have the lockdown, that would be the new normal, not going out. So scientists have said, well, we gave you this advice. We said the worst case scenario was going to be that potentially in the winter, 10,000 deaths would happen per day. Of course, we didn't hit that worst case scenario, but the government was a bit stuck. If it didn't go and do what the scientists say, then potentially we could have seen more deaths. And a lot of countries, not just the UK, were also doing the same thing. Of course, Boris Johnson's advisors have also come out and said, especially Lee Kane and Dominic Cummings, have both said that Sunak's comments are dangerous and also irresponsible. And the British Medical Association has said that the government just did what they were advised to do. And if Sunak did have a problem, he should have stood up and tried to push further and not come out with this now when he's vying for his own Prime Minister contest. There is currently a public inquiry going on to see exactly how all of this COVID pandemic was dealt with. And we should be getting some of those results later in the year into next year.
Alex Iszatt in London, thank you.